Hey guys, may the peaceful one be with you all, and I hope you all are keeping well. With the release of Ninja Gaiden 4 and the upcoming DLC, I wanted to take the time to talk about the main protagonist Ryu Hayabusa, and why his existence in gaming is literally game-changing. There are few characters who can match up to Ryu. To me, he is one of a kind, and he held a special place in my heart ever since I was introduced to him when I first played Ninja Gaiden Sigma back on the PlayStation 3. To me, Ryu is an inspiration, and he is partly the reason as to why I started working and training so hard to begin with. I will be detailing a few things about Ryu here in this video to explain why to me he will always remain one of the greatest fictional characters of all time. One thing that is certainly commendable with Ryu is his attitude towards his opponents. Despite him having many enemies, he doesn't really insult them or anything. Due to his focus, he keeps his mouth completely sealed, and exerts his energy in exercising the threats, rather than to waste time just bad-mouthing them. One moment I'm very fond of is at the end of Ninja Gaiden 2, where the game shows a scene of Ryu dropping the blade of the Archfiend at the resting grounds of the Black Spider clan. And this is due to Ryu showing his respects towards his defeated rival Genshin, who offered Ryu his cursed weapon out of respect for his beliefs and cause.
Are you there, Dragon Ninja? All grows dark and silent. I have staked my name. I have fought with all of my being. All to forge a future for the Black Spider clan. I have no regrets. Just as you have pursued a cause greater than yourself, so too have I. Dragon Ninja, take my cursed blade.
Genshin.
The two were on completely separate and opposing paths, yet they realize they are doing what they believe is best for their clans and acting on a higher purpose beyond themselves. This causes them to have a mutual respect for each other that many others may fail to realize. Despite Genshin being on a path completely contrary to Ryu's own, Ryu still honors his fallen foe and places the blade of the Archfiend in his stead. Ryu is the living definition of masculinity, not from his muscles, but rather from his attitude and presentation. He stands tall, he stands strong, he is firm, looks tough, formidable. From the way he presents himself, from the way he speaks, he does not act coy or shy. He means what he says and remains respectful all the same. Every action performed is carried with purpose. Every word spoken is decorated with sharpness. Ryu is a man through and through. He doesn't speak in a feminine manner, nor does he act that way either. Even from the way he dresses, there are no colors to represent a feminine nature. With Ryu's masculine nature, he is certainly a man that other men should aspire to become. We live in a day and age where it is becoming increasingly more difficult to find good male role models. In the modern age, at least in the Western world, males are being more and more feminized with their attitudes, speech, presentation, dressing, interests, and more. In the end, a man is a man and should act as such. Ryu defines how a man should be. As I said before, Ryu is a man who is driven by purpose. Everything he does has meaning to it, and leads to a higher cause beyond himself. He understands that his line of work may lead him closer towards his last breath, yet he does not cower, nor does he falter. He continues striving towards his cause, a cause that he understands is the purpose of his being. There is one scene in Ninja Gaiden 3 where Ryu returns to his father in order to try and find a cure for this curse that was inflicted upon him. This curse would cause its bearer to transform into a sinister being with no control over their own mind, a living nightmare. On reaching his father, unfortunately the response given was that there was no known cure for this curse. And what I love about this scene was Ryu's actions afterwards.
The way the curse pulses tells me it has infested your entire body.
How do I get rid of it?
I do not know. Long ago, there was once a dragon ninja afflicted by a similar curse. In the end, he was swallowed by the darkness. Only his dragon sword remained.
There are still things I have to do.
It's not an easy thing to live in the darkness. But there are times when we must face the darkness and overcome it, or else.
He doesn't get sad. He doesn't cry. He just accepts this fact and says, there are still things I have to do. This scene was really beautiful and iconic for me. Ryu knows that he is going to die here. He knows that he probably won't relieve himself of this curse, and that eventually he will transform. But despite this reality, he never stops pushing forward. He doesn't become depressed. He doesn't cower, cry, or change his attitude. Instead, he stays focused and says he still has work to do. He is basically saying, okay, I might die here. This might be it for me. But as long as I can still breathe and move, I will continue fulfilling my duty until my last breath. And that to me is nothing except beautiful and commendable. One thing I love about Ryu is his level of focus. Once he has his mind set on a task, then he works to fulfill it without a second thought, and would do anything in his power to make sure that his focus comes into fruition. It's that level of focus everyone should adopt. When a target is set, it must be chased until the very end. Never deviate from that focus, no matter what. Ryu is a man with an unwavering spirit. Against insane odds, against oversized enemies, against impossible tasks, against dangerous missions. Even when faced against himself, he just pushes on. At times he is hurt. At times he does get affected. At times he may be nearing death's door. But one thing I love about Ryu is that he never gives up. It ain't over until it's over. And that is a code Ryu stands by. Never give up. Continue fighting and pushing until the very end. There's a scene in Ninja Gaiden 1 where Ryu expresses to Rachel that the reason for his abilities and skill were not due to some extraordinary power, but rather just the natural outcome of his training.
Not bad. So what exactly are you? You're much more powerful than just a human.
My strength comes from training, not from some curse in my blood.
This to me spoke volumes. Ryu is just a regular guy. He's not special or anything. The only reason he is able to do the things he does is because he earned the right to do them, through hard work and dedication. Ryu is a man of few words, and honestly that's one of the reasons why I love him. He doesn't speak because he doesn't need to. He's the kind of man to act, only speaking if necessary. One great thing about Ryu is the level of skill he possesses. He is a man capable of many feats, and once again, all gained due to his training, from wall running, ability to use multiple weapons, acrobatics, his level of athleticism, and more. Ryu is a man who worked hard to be able to perform all the things which we see him do now. Skill is respected, and I certainly respect Ryu for that same reason. Despite the firm nature that we see from Ryu Hayabusa, he has the ability to also show kindness and compassion with those who are deserving. If you look at Ninja Gaiden 3 for example, where Ryu engages with Kana for the first time, Ryu actually takes off his mask in order to try his best to make Kana as comfortable as possible, even greeting her with a smile. When Kana also gifted Ryu a handmade paper shuriken, Ryu accepted it gracefully, even mentioning to Kana how much safer this gift from her made him feel. Obviously said just to make Kana feel accepted, to make her efforts feel worthwhile, as well as offer a warmth to her heart.
What's this? Thanks, Kana. I feel safer with this.
One thing that stood out for me was Ryu's attitude when Cliff was introduced to Ryu for the first time. Cliff offered his hand, but Ryu did not extend his own hand in return. This was not due to disrespect, because clearly Ryu returned his greeting with a nod of acknowledgement. Also just moments earlier in the same scene, we saw Ryu extend his hand to Kana. So why did Ryu not offer his hand to Cliff? The answer is simple. Ryu is wise. He understood that Kana was not a threat, and thus was able to offer his hand to her without needing to worry about danger. Cliff, on the other hand, was an adult working for a powerful organization. Ryu did not know who Cliff was, and therefore didn't know if he could be trusted. So Ryu did not extend his hand, not out of disrespect, but due to his own safety in mind. Kana and Cliff are two different types of people, posing as two completely different levels of threat. It's this seasoned nature as to why I respect Ryu so much as a character. He doesn't know Cliff like that. He doesn't trust him yet. He has no reason to trust him either. He is mature and wise enough to understand this. Ryu is aura in nature. He's just so cool. The kind of guy who doesn't even need to act or say anything in order to look cool. He literally just needs to stand still, and that's it. Ryu has had such a massive impact on me. Like many other video game characters growing up as a child. Due to Ryu, I adopted the path of training and becoming stronger. I recently made a short film called The Successor, together with another. This short film was a passion project of mine, and meant a lot to me. Ryu Hayabusa was a huge inspiration, and back then I never thought I can be like him. However, as I continued training and working hard, I had come to notice my progression and level increasing, eventually coming to a point which truly surprised me. I was now able to perform at a level similar to Ryu Hayabusa and many other video game characters I grew up with. Once I was confident in my ability, I realized it was time to make this short film as a symbol of me becoming the living embodiment of Ryu Hayabusa's legacy, to become his successor. It was something I was really proud of, a stage I was happy to achieve, all with nothing but hard work, training, and dedication. Just as Ryu himself said during the events of Ninja Gaiden 1. At that point, I was no longer just a man inspired by Ryu Hayabusa. I had become just like Ryu Hayabusa. It took 10 years of training, but I finally managed to reach a stage that I once believed was impossible. There are many reasons as to why I love Ryu, and why he's such a definitive character for me. These are a few reasons as to why he's such an iconic character in my eyes. He is an inspiration. Part of why I trained so hard in my life is because of how Ryu inspired me to become better. It's hard to not fall in love with such a character, especially if you are a man yourself. It's also extremely refreshing to see a character like this when so many men from gaming are being thrown aside or being feminized completely. I'm glad Ryu remains as Ryu, and to me he is and always will be the legendary Dragon Ninja.
Darkness is destined to lift in the end. I still have much left to do.
May the peaceful one be with you. I am the Stylesman, and if you enjoyed what you've seen,
And please support me by subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing this with as many people as you can. The more support that you guys give me, the more you will get out in return. So please check all the socials and links in the description. Rest assured that your support in me will not be misplaced. Thank you, and may you be at peace.